Another day, another outrage. They have now revealed the Harry Potter cast for at least some of the teachers. And as expected, we now have a black Snape. And as predicted, the internet has lost its mind. Now, don't get me wrong. I kind of get where people are coming from with this because we've been so long entrenched with this vision of Snape being white, specifically being Alan Rickman. And I know there's people who are hiding behind the whole, oh, but book accuracy. That's one of the things I want to get into. People are actually losing their minds and going as far as to say, I'm not even going to watch this. First off, lies. I don't believe that for a single moment that when with this big IP comes out, you're not going to watch it. But there's a few things going on. One, it's Snape's color. Two, it's the book accuracy. And three, it's people calling for the torches and pitchforks in relation to HBO. I'm going to address all three of these points because there's some serious inconsistency going on amongst people. First and foremost, let's address the skin color issue. So, the claim is that casting a black actress Snape isn't loyal to the books, right? Well, let's actually check what J.K. Rowling wrote. Here's Snape's actual description from the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. He had sallow skin, a hooked nose, and greasy shoulder-length black hair. That's it. That's all we've got. Now, for the sake of being open and honest, it does also go on to say that he was pale, offset by the darkness of his robes, giving him a vampiric look. Not to pull at strings here, but you do realize that there are varying degrees of color when it comes to being a black person. I know it sounds crazy that I'm sitting here as a white dude saying this, but you got deepest, darkest Central Africa. You got guys who are mixed race, but who still identify as black. Are you allowed to say mixed race now? I'm really sorry if you're not. That wasn't meant offensively if you're not allowed to say that. And you've got guys who are on the sort of lighter end of the complexion, but who are still black. So the complexion issue about him being white or black, it's a bit of a non-mover because JK never specifically says that he's black. Sallow in itself doesn't actually mean white. It means yellowish and unhealthy looking. So unless Snape is jaundiced, like, I get it. I get it. I'm not going to pretend that when they said Snape's black, it didn't make me go, whoa. But, you've got to honestly take a step back from this, have a breather, and just think, is Snape being white or black intrinsic to his character? I personally don't think so. Like, Snape being a white dude isn't what makes him Snape. You know what I mean? Like, T'Challa, the Black Panther being black is a huge part of his character. He's literally a king of an African nation. Imaginary African nation, granted, but still an African nation. So he needs to be black. Snape being black or white doesn't really have a bearing on the character. So while I get it, to be fair, JK never specifically says he's white or he's black. She says sallow and pale. And I get why that would lead to, myself included, hey, I thought dude's white, right? That's how I always imagined him. Maybe that's a bit of ingrained racial bias on my part. I don't know. But yeah, I always saw him as white. But the more you think about it, him being black or white isn't really intrinsic to his character. Here's where I get miffed, though. Because, again, as I say, I understand where people got butthurt by this. But it's when people start hiding behind this naming of book accuracy that I have to call bullshit. Because if you're such a staunch defender of book accuracy, then I have one very simple question for you. What did you really think of Alan Rickman's casting? Genuine question. I imagine you really liked it. As did I. He kicked ass. Let's agree on that. Alan Rickman was fantastic as Snape. Here's the problem. Because unless you were out there leading a protest in 2001 screaming, "Not my Snape," then congratulations. You've already proven that you don't actually care about faithfulness to the books. Because let's not forget, Snape in the books was 31 years old when Philosopher's Stone begins. Here's the math. He was born in 1960, and the first book is set in 1991. Alan Rickman, 57. And he looked 60. Respectfully. So you had no problem accepting a Snape who was 30 years too old to be the character, but now suddenly a black actor is where you draw the line? I mean, You see where I'm going with this. You can't have it both ways. But now I imagine people are going to say, yeah, but Alan Rickman's performance is amazing, which I've already agreed with. But that's kind of the point. Rickman didn't look like Book Snape. He didn't match the age, but he was an incredible actor, so we all accepted it. So if it was performance over accuracy, which, by the way, I'm absolutely fine with, but if that's the case, then why are people already raging about the new Snape? The show hasn't even aired yet. You have literally no idea if this actor is good or not. Are you really going to tell me that you'd be totally fine with a 60-year-old Snape, but not a black one? You see how now this starts to become a bit weird, and why I'm saying maybe take a step back and have a think about this one when you're claiming book accuracy. And now, because of the decision to cast a Black Snape, I've heard people raging online how they're not going to watch the show, which, frankly, if you are going to do that, you're ridiculous. Two, you're calling for the pitchforks towards HBO. This is where I call stupidity. Let's talk about the bigger picture here. This isn't some random low budget fan film. This is HBO. You know, the people behind Game of Thrones. And yes, we'll get to the ending of Game of Thrones. Calm down. The Last of Us, Chernobyl, Succession, The Sopranos. Do you seriously think they're throwing darts at a board to pick actors? This is one of the most prestigious networks in the world, and debatably the network responsible for putting out the greatest TV ever. Oh, let's also not forget they did The Wire, for many, the greatest TV show ever. Like, there is a history of quality that includes recent history, like with The Last of Us, Succession, and Chernobyl. I don't know. I'm advocating that maybe, just maybe, they know what they're doing. But of course, with this, I can already hear the counter argument and the keyboards blazing as you type furiously. But the Game of Thrones ending sucked. It did. It most certainly did. I agree with that. That last season of Game of Thrones was a flaming train wreck. We all agree on that. But you know what wasn't? The seasons that came before it. Hell, I'll even give you the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones not being great. But the 6 before? Amazing. You loved this show. You praised it for years. You were hooked, obsessed, blown away by its storytelling. And 1, maybe 2 bad seasons. Now this suddenly means HBO is incapable of making great TV? Ridiculous. Let's not pretend Game of Thrones was HBO's only show. It wasn't a fluke. They've consistently put out top-tier television. So maybe, again, just maybe, they're not going to fumble the ball on one of the biggest IPs in the world. At the end of the day, there's things I get, but a lot of this controversy, again with respect, is honestly laughable. I'm taking the following stance. I understand why the initial, and I emphasize initial, aversion and reaction to the skin color happened. Hell, I had it. But it's this hiding behind the book accuracy thing. It's ridiculous. You didn't care about source material accuracy when Alan Rickman was cast. If you're upset now, you're exposing that it's not about accuracy. It's sadly about something else. And again, each to our own, we all like different things, but borderline objectively, HBO has earned your trust. This is not a CW reboot. Let the series actually come out before you start having a meltdown. And who knows? Maybe this new Snape will be the best thing about it. You might love his performance. What sucks is you'd then have to admit that you were wrong and too quick to judge. But if you did that, chapeau, respect. If you're someone who can sit there and say, I don't like this idea of a Black Snape, and then when you see him go, you know what, he actually kicked ass, he was good, respect. There's nothing better than someone who can take a look at themselves and go, I was wrong. Kudos to you. If you're going to dig your heels in and hide behind this book accuracy thing and not acknowledge a thing I've said about Rickman's age in relation to Snape's age, you have to see that that's a problem. You must have a level of intelligence to understand that that's a problem. Even if this guy's Not as good as Alan Rickman. So what? He gave it a try. They tried something. It didn't work. Alan Rickman's Snape is still there for us all to love. And they'll try again with another Harry Potter series in 20 years. This isn't going to alter the course of your life. This isn't going to damage you somehow. You may love this. Give it a chance. And let me know what you all think below. My name's Nico Luro from the Silver Screen Dudes. Let's give Harry Potter a chance. Let me know what you think of Black Snape, of Alan Rickman's age. Let me know all of this down in the comment section, and I'll see you all very soon for another video right here on the Silver Screen Dudes. Long love cinema, and in this case, TV. Bye for now.